kind of put all of us into this space called the cutting edge. And so without any further ado, please allow me to introduce my dear friend, Dr. Stephen B. Thomas. Hey, Dr. T, how you doing?
It's always good to be in the same space with you, Mayor. And what a show we have planned for tonight. Just this week, the legacy of the U.S. Public Health Service syphilis study done at Tuskegee has come up on more than one stage. So you know what it's like, Mayor? It's like hearing an echo. Just like when Booker T. Washington set something in motion, we're hearing an echo of what our ancestors have taught us. And this is the space where it can be done on this whole area of bioethics and trust. At the root of it is all about trust.
Absolutely correct. I do know that, and that we don't do this by ourselves. We have a team of people behind the scene who bring this to us every time we come on the air, and so we'll talk about them now. That team is headed up by Meg Jordan, our technical director. Meg also does our public health minute, and she's gotten to be really good at it. People are talking about Meg all over, about how she's able to put it where the cows can get it, Dr. T.
You got that
really,
right.
And really just break it down, complex issues, break them down in ways that are very simple to understand, for children to understand. And I think that's one of her gifts, ability to do that. Maggie Daly, who is our assistant technical director, who's also the correspondence person that sends all of our stuff out. She also does a newsletter and just many more things. She's all things to all people in the cutting edge space. So we're so appreciative to have Maggie Daly part of this team. And then Saraya Khan, who is a social media coordinator. And so making sure that we're out on all of the social media platforms. And another cousin from the other side, Elijah Pugh Jr., who is the sound designer, the one who, the music that you heard, well, he designed that. He's my mother's sister's grandson. So
he can still get you to bounce, huh?
He still can get me to bounce. So this is just fabulous, man. Just having this kind of a day. You all don't know, because words cannot describe how honored I am to be a part of this cutting edge show. Well, let's bring on let me, before we do that, let me tell you how you can connect to us on all of the social media network platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and others. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. And make sure you stay in contact with us, as well as make sure that you subscribe to our newsletter. It comes out each and every week. Even the weeks when we are not on, the newsletter always comes out. And it has really pertinent information that will help you to understand what's happening in the public health spaces. We also archive our shows there. So if you missed the show, you will get that show in our newsletter, along with vignettes of our previous guests, little snippets of profound things that they've said. You find those in the newsletter as well. So it's a great thing, and we're doing a great work here on the Cutting Edge Show. Well, let's get started, man. We got to get started. Let me bring up my cousin first, Carmen Head Thornton. She is, people are younger than you, but you look up to them, you admire them for who they are and what they do. And then a lot of times, because of her modesty, I don't know all of the things that Carmen was doing. I mean, I'm learning from other people. My cousin is the real deal Holyfield. She's in the public health space. She's the chair of the finance committee for the Voices for Our Fathers Legacy Foundation. and she's doing wonderful things in the public health space. As you know, she was a part of the Ad Council video, and just the way that she was able to express the emotions of that moment and how she was able to communicate her grandfather's voice in that video was powerful. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming my cousin, my friend, someone who I love and admire, Carmen Head Thornton. Hey, Carmen, how you doing?
Good evening. Good evening. It is so good to see you.
Come on.
Snaps of fingers,
Absolutely.
blowing kisses, all of that good stuff. You know, certainly the love and admiration comes right back to you tenfold, Omar.
Yeah.
With all that you've done and all that you continue to do. I thank you. I thank you for being a voice. And for working in all of the different special capacities that you do. It is an honor and a delight to be with you all this evening. Shout out to my mom and to my Aunt Joyce. It's really a great opportunity to talk, to really talk about something that's really very important. And I wanted to first acknowledge Dr. Thomas for being such a champion for health equity and being a leader in this effort, for all of the many ways that you have impacted the field, particularly at the University of Maryland, and all of the things that you were. I know that you've been a prolific writer, as you and your wife, around the syphilis study. And recall, I remember one time I was at home, I guess back into 07 or 08, and on CNN, you and Tom Levis were referenced about a study that you did about the syphilis study and the response of the community on whether, you know, people of in the African-American community were actually impacted as to whether they want to participate in a trial or not, based on the syphilis study. And there was some data that was shared that was actually on CNN. So it's just always nice to be in your presence, in the presence of giants. And I definitely consider you one, Dr. Thomas, and consider you one, Omar, and also my mom and Aunt Joyce and everyone else that's gathered today. I unfortunately have another engagement that I have to run to, but so there are some very special areas that I would like to talk about. Being a family member and a descendant, my grandfather played a very integral part of my life, a very special part of my upbringing, was a beacon in my life. And so this work, my work in public health, has everything to do with his involvement in this study and how I am hoping to support social justice and bring about change. The Voices for Our Fathers Family Legacy Foundation was established in 2014. We are an organization of family members of other men who are involved in the study. And I should say that we had actually cousins that were also involved in the study, like many other members of the men did. And I just want to get sort of really to the crux, because I don't have that much time to talk. But you had mentioned that, you know, the trust is the root of this all, you know, getting to the root of this. I agree with you 100%. And it is a conversation about trust. It is a conversation about, you know, deconstructing medical mistrust in the community. But I would also like to say that the work that we're doing as family members and the story of the syphilis study is imperative that the community knows about it if they don't.
Let me say this. Let me say this, because I know that you got to go, and this is a talk show, so I'm gonna make sure we have a conversation.
Right.
Yes.
You know, the thing too, Carmen, and you know, I know that you were very, very young, but when you first heard about this, I mean, I want to kind of take you back there. What can you recall your first impression of what you were thinking, or did you have any inclination at all of what this was and the magnitude of what had taken place to your grandfather?
And circa 19, wow, how old were you when it was?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I was very young. I'm not going to tell you what year I was born.
Yeah,
but it was actually after the study broke. So
You're
I was still very young, but my grandparents were, you know, I was there, you know, they were like my daycare. They were my, I was there when I wasn't with my parents, I was with my grandparents. And I do remember a time very early on. Well, we talked about it. They talked about it a lot. I didn't exactly know what was really being talked about, but I knew the word syphilis. I was familiar with the word syphilis as a young child because it was talked about often. And I do remember there was a medical and I think an insurance man that came to my grandparents' house. It was related to the syphilis study. And I was there. I remember the day. I remember what he had on. I remember the conversation. I didn't know what they were talking about, but I knew it was serious, and I knew it had something to do with syphilis. And then maybe a couple of years later, my mother was at my grandparents' church in Waterbury, Connecticut, and my mother was giving a talk. I'm not sure what she was talking about or why she had this talk at my grandmother's church, but we were in the I guess the repast area, the reception area upstairs, I'm talking about upstairs. And my mother was talking about the syphilis study and about Black doctors and the importance of Black doctors and what happened in the syphilis study. And when my mother was talking about it, then I was maybe 7 or 8 years old, and something clicked in me at that time in my life. And I said, I have to be involved. I'm going to be involved.
And that really shaped how you felt about your career path as a result.
And
Because
that's
I've heard you
exactly
talked about. I've heard you talk about that.
It
Right.
was like a calling. It was a calling.
Let me just
Yeah.
say, Mayor, for this conversation, I want to have some time with Carmen too.
Right. Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
Right.
We got a few more minutes. Go
Hey,
ahead.
Carmen, before you leave, you have young people out there listening to you. And I want them to know how you can be touched by something very young that can shape the arc of your career. You're
Mhm.
following a passion. And I've been around long enough, as you began to describe our relationship, been around long enough to actually see the impact that you have had in the field. We've actually presented together back in the day with the Society for Public Health Education. I'm just so proud of the star that you have followed. And so the impact has also been in the area of bioethics. Anyone writing an IRB, Institutional Review Board application, knows that. But here's what they don't know. They don't know that's one of the positive legacies from in the aftermath. Can you say something about that? What are the positive legacies?
And I guess that's the point that I'm really trying to share, is that there are so many. This is such an impactful study. And oftentimes, really since the COVID vaccine, just give me a moment to just sort of share my thoughts. I have Google Alerts on my email. So whenever the syphilis study is talked about, it comes up in my email. And I have read countless articles over and over about how researchers, people who are working in health equity, and experts who are engaged in social determinants of health and social justice talk about syphilis study. And I read in an article, someone said, Tuskegee, Tuskegee, Tuskegee. I am so sick and tired of talking about Tuskegee. And so when you're a family member and you hear someone, if you're working in public health, number one, but if you're a family member and you hear someone say that, it does something to your heart. It hits a completely different way. And I don't want the message to be lost that the syphilis, we are still gathering lessons from the syphilis study. It is about medical mistrust, absolutely. But there is also another study about how to move from a victim to a victor. How do you move from trauma to triumph?
Okay.
How do you move from tragedy to triumph? And I think that's a really important conversation when we're talking about health equity.
Yes.
And being engaged and feeling as though you can be empowered to change the narrative.
Okay.
There's power there that I think is really being overlooked. And I really do think maybe it's worthy of a paper or an opinion piece.
All right, here we go.
About why Tuskegee is still very relevant. Maybe perhaps it's not about because people feel as though the syphilis study is the reason why people aren't getting the vaccine. That's not the conversation, but the conversation is there's still many lessons that we're pulling away from what happened at the syphilis study. There's still things that we need to learn about what happened to the blood samples, were they used in some way? Just thinking about Henrietta Lacks and all the ways that medicine was advanced because of her unknowing contributions. So we're still learning some things. There's still history is still in the dark there. And I just don't want people to forget that.
Yes.
I think we're all students. I will forever be a student, and we're all learning. And to the public health students, shout out to all my public health and health education people, because that is me all day. And I say, learn as much as you can. Learn as much as you can. There's so much, but also know that you are a part of the study, and that you're a part of the legacy.
That's
and you're
right.
a part of moving social justice.
Let me say this as you get ready to leave, and let me thank you, because I know that you had to juggle some things in order to accommodate us. So we that's not lost on us.
You can see she wants to stay.
But you gotta go. But let me say this. And we need to really understand that people still are grappling with this notion of distrust, and they don't know whether or not we fixed whatever was necessary to not have the study that was conducted in Tuskegee recur, right? So you're looking at it from a public health lens. Do you feel confident to say that we have made the requisite guardrails and created the requisite constraints that this study the likelihood of this study happening again is remote?
Well, to the point of Dr. Thomas and, the institution, the creation of institutional review boards, and, what's required of people who are even doing social research to adhere to protocols and informed consent. Even in, a clinical setting where research isn't happening, those informed consent documents are very much here because of what happened in the study. And we don't want to forget that those are really very important pieces of information. I think there's a couple of a couple of other meetings ago, they talked about perhaps revising, I guess, the Belmont report. So those things are still in place. But we are living in a racist society, and systemic racism is still alive. It's a live wire, and we are in a space where anything can happen, and that's the God's honest truth. And so we have to remain vigilant. We need people, students, to be on fire about this work and to go into these areas and these fields. And we also need some more community representation around the board when people are doing research, or when organizations, institutions are doing research. There should be some type of community component that involves people in the planning. So it's not just about communities being researched or being investigated per se. It's really about the community wanting to learn about their own challenges or health issues, or how can they be a part of being engaged in making a change or being a part of that. And so we have to involve the communities in some way. And that is why I am so proud of what we're doing with the Voices for Our Fathers Legacy Foundation, because we are making a way. We are making our place at the table. And it's really very important, because another piece of part of that, the trust conversation, I think is with institutions who have maybe been engaged in racism, coming forward and recognizing their wrong, being accountable, validating, saying, yes, there was things that were egregious and wrong in our history, and this is the way that we're going to provide restitution or apology or compensate for what happened. And that's why I also am just so thrilled and so I feel so fortunate about our relationship with the Millbank Memorial Fund. So that's all I think that's all I really have time for.
Let me say this.
I know her time is short, but I just want to say you've just given us a master class here this evening. Thank you so
Absolutely. Well, I'm not going to let you go without telling you how much I love you, Carmen Headthorn. Boy, you're my heart, and you know that. So Thank
I
you so
love
much
you
for
too,
all you do.
more than you and Debbie and Omari,
Every-
but you have no idea. So I
Absolutely.
appreciate you. I
Yeah.
appreciate you. And one day we were at a meeting in Tuskegee. This was probably 20 years ago or something. You said, you need to stop being so humble. That's exactly what you said to me. And
Absolutely.
it's so funny that you still say that. That is so funny. Anyways,
I love the family stories here.
That's true. Absolutely.
That is
Well,
so funny.
I'm going to be respectful of your time
Snap
and
her on down.
appreciative of your time. Thank you, Carmen, for
Thank you all. Love
hanging out with
to
us.
everybody. Love you,
Take care.
Mom. Love
Take
you,
care.
Aunt Joyce. Bye.
Good,
Good to see you
good,
again.
good.
Bye-bye.
Be good. Be safe out there. Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. All right. So, man.
Wow, that was a real treat, Omar.
That was a treat. That was a treat. Right. To have my cousin, I'm so proud of her. I've been moderating and hosting shows, but this is a special kind of space for me. And and I want to acknowledge that.
Yes.
To have your family, that's a different thing. So I'm excited about having my other cousins be introduced as well. Let's bring up another cousin. This is like the matriarch of our family. She's the leader of all of our efforts around our communication about the study and everything. She's the president of the Voices for Our Fathers Legacy Foundation. She is my cousin. We grew up next door to each other, but she's an educator. She spent her time educating our children and developing human capital development. She was recruited into this. I don't think that Lily really wanted to do this, but she was convicted. It was a conviction. And one thing that I do know about her, that whatever she puts her mind to, that's exactly what's going to happen.
All right.
She's a passionate person who has a calling to do good and to try to find silver linings. Sometimes I even think beyond what is reasonable. She always try to find a way to reconcile, always trying to find a way to see the good in whatever's happening, recognizing that there's a blessing and a lesson in everything. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming my first cousin, my sister, my friend, Lily Tyson Head.
All right. Welcome to the cutting edge.
Hey,
Wonderful
how
seeing
you
your
doing?
daughter.
Good evening, everyone. It's so nice to see your wonderful smiling faces. And to my cousin, Omar, whom he used to say that I was everybody's mama.
Yeah, you are.
Thank you so much, Omar, for the work that you're doing and for having us on this evening. I think the topic and the conversation that we are having is most important. And I hope it will be an inspiration for others, particularly when it comes to the families of any type of trauma and social justice, to come together first as a family and then include all those around you, to become a voice for those who have been so mistreated in the past. And this is our season, I do believe, because there's so many voices that are rising. And I think Maya Angelou's poem, "And Still I Rise,"
Yes.
I feel that poem is speaking to us now, rising from the ashes.
Okay.
So it's really a wonderful thing. Omar mentioned something about a calling, and indeed it was a calling, and I contribute my presence here tonight is because of the Holy Spirit.
Okay.
Because I did not have this on my bucket list. I was going in a totally different direction as to what I was going to be doing during my retirement years. I'm retired. And yet now, with working with the foundation, I can honestly say I'm working harder now and thinking more now than I did when I was teaching high school and working volunteering within the community and my mother's church. But it's a blessing. And when you are on the right path, God gives you the strength, and he provides the wisdom, and he gives you the understanding so that you can continue to move forward. But I hold no credit, nor do I feel so honored to be working and doing the things that I'm doing today. I feel humble and I feel blessed, and I pray that God will continue to bring me through what he have brought me to. So thank you again.
Yeah.
Well, we just had Carmen. We just had
Oh,
Carmen up, and that same spirit. Now I see how that same spirit has been moved forward through her, and as I've watched her career. Thank you so much. We have young people out there listening to you tonight as well, to let them know that they can make a difference.
Absolutely. And one voice can make a difference. You'll be amazed as to how one voice can impact the attitudes and the thinking of another person. You won't solve the problems, all of the problems, but you will give some person or one person an idea as to how to think a little different from the way they have been thinking in the past.
Right.
And that's what, to me, that's the underlining way that we're going to change things in the system, is by changing attitudes and by changing ways in which the past have been thinking about the way they treat us as human beings, first of all, and then as African Americans, are deserving of the respect and the dignity and the treatment that every human being deserves. So that's important. If I may just say this, trust has come up a lot, but before we can get to trust, we have to have trustworthiness.
Okay.
And trustworthiness comes about through your actions.
Okay.
Not only your words, but your
mhm.
actions. And you have to prove your trustworthiness before you can be trusted. So with the study, since there are still many questions about the study, and Carmen has mentioned the specimens and the blood samples that were taken along with the spinal fluid that were taken over 40 years.
Yes.
We do not know the research and the data from that. That's one of the things that the foundation is looking for. And we invite you to join us in that.
Okay.
Because we need to know that information. What was found? How was it used? Who used it? Transparency needs to take place. There was no accountability for that study by the doctors and those who were involved. The only accountability that we can seek now is to find the facts and to know the whole story of that study. And then once I see where the acknowledgement of that and the taking the responsibility for that comes forth, then I think we will start to build trust. Okay. Another thing too is with the title of the study, and I so appreciate you, Dr. Tabas, and of course my dear cousin Omar, that referred to it as the Tuskegee experiment or the Tuskegee syphilis study. That's the wrong name of that study, and it should never have been used. And the proper name, and the name that we're using now, so that it tells the whole, well, not the whole story, but it tells what the story was intended for in the first place, and it tells who did it, not Tuskegee. And that's United States Public Health Service study of untreated syphilis in the Negro male. We have to put untreated in there because that was the purpose of the study from the very beginning, not to treat those men. And that was the most egregious part of it, especially after penicillin was discovered.
Okay.
They still denied those men. And some of, not all of them, because some of them, through the grace of God, got out of it.
Right.
And went and sought medical help other place. But most of the men never knew they had syphilis. My father was one of them. He did not know that he had syphilis. He had congenital syphilis, but he
Yes.
never had any symptoms. He was never sick. His entire life until he got to be elderly, and when there were the male problems that would come up and a cataract. That was it for my father. And he stayed healthy. He kept his body in fit, and he kept his mind fit. But he didn't know he had syphilis until they told him that when the CDC doctor came by the house to tell him that he was indeed in the study. So I can imagine a lot of those men felt the same way. And when I speak of my father, I am wrapping my thoughts, my heart, my whole soul around all of those men in that study, because they were so served so unjustly. And I knew quite a few of the men in the study from my father's church and from going to different churches with my father when I was younger and living in Macon County, in addition to my great uncle and my two cousins that I had, one on my mother's side and one on my father's side. So the study, as Carmen said, is quite relevant today. And it is of interest, not only here in the US, but across the world.
Yes.
I have had several contacts along with my sister Joyce to do interviews, podcasts, and make videos about the study, starting with correcting its name and talking about the social and racial injustices that was done to those men. So
Miss Lily, about the name, so that as we move forward, we're clear, particularly, and think about those high school students you used to teach. Now we're coming into a high school in 2023. But adding untreated syphilis in the Negro male, we missed that part in our title. We're going to correct that. This whole language thing, the Negro male, we don't use that term in a contemporary way anymore. That is the name. Say something about, help us when we get out there, if we get pushback around using Negro. And
a Negro was as commonly used during that time. We have had I don't know if I would have call it a transformation, but we have been transitioning from colored. That was acceptable. And of course, everyone knew what was called upon us with the N-word, but we transitioned to the colored. And from the colored to the Negro. And then in the 70s, with James Brown's song Black and Proud,
all right.
we have gone to we've used Black. And we were really proud of we're Black. So that was a big movement then with Black and Proud. So and then we've gone from the Black to the African American. And I think what in my mind, we were searching for our identity, which had been taken from us during slavery. And trying to associate and connect us with someone and somewhere. Because during slavery, we had really no identity. We didn't even have names when we were recorded on the censors, when the slave owners were writing who was on their plantation. Wow. It was just age and your male or female. The names were not there. And then we didn't have last names. We would assume the name of the slave owner. You were John Smith's slave, or you were J.D. Jones' slaves. So we had to come out of that position of really not knowing who we were, only what we had done in our life during the slavery time. So we've moved up to African American, and not all African Americans accept that today. Some still will refer to Black, and if you notice on some of the applications, they will have Black or African American or a non-Hispanic Black and that kind of thing. So it's still something that we are toying with, but now it's easily acceptable. I should say readily acceptable to be called an African American.
You know, it's one thing, Lily. Dr. T.
Just to close that out, I'm going to take that as it's okay to use the actual name when we're talking about the study, including the term Negro. And everyone has gotten a little education here about connecting the dots of how we got there. We should not be intimidated because language is now being weaponized and racialized. So I like that. We'll use the full name as it was and include that untreated.
Absolutely. And who did it? Because when you put Tuskegee in front of it, you're giving Tuskegee the ownership and making them accountable and making them responsible. Right. And Tuskegee were not the owners of that study. It took place there and they had a role in it, but they are not the owners and they should not be held accountable. And why would they put Tuskegee there in the first place without saying who was doing this?
I hear you.
The public
I had to correct somebody.
Dr. T, that's putting it where the cows can get it. That's my cousin. Hey, Lily, thank you so much. I got some more questions for you, but we're going to do that after we show the film, because there are some people who don't know. And so we're going to contextualize it with the film, and then I'm going to have some stuff because this special person, Johnny May Neal Tyson, is I want to bring her into this space. Because you talk about it all the time, that it was not just your father, it was everybody was involved. And so you really made sure that your mother was acknowledged in terms of the impact of that study on her as well, and the entire family. And so I have really learned so much from you in terms of how to frame the issue. I often say how you frame the issue determines who embraced the cause, and you've been a master at that. So thank you so much. We'll continue to talk about that. So think about my aunt, sister, okay, as we come back for this. Joyce Christian, let's bring her up. This is a sister. We call each other cousins, but that's just because that's just the relationship. But we're more like sister and brothers and sisters. We grew up right next door to each other. Joyce has always been like the family physician. She's a nurse. And so she's been the healer of the family, and not just in the physical way. Her spirit is a healing spirit, always trying to reconcile, always trying to bring people into the fold. She has this kind of way of making you feel that your presence is important and that you are important. As a child, I can remember the attention that I got from my cousins. They knew who we were. They spent time talking to us and interacting with us. Although they were a little older, it was a family that really recognized and appreciated your beingness. Joyce has the spirit of recognizing your beingness and seeing the good in everyone. And if you see the good, if you just take one of those O's out, just one of the O's out, you literally see the God in everybody. And that's what Joyce Christian does and is. Joyce L. Tyson Christian, let's bring her up. Hey, cousin.
We bring you up with snaps.
Hello, cousin.
Bring you up.
Oh, wow.
Come on, Lily.
You know what? that has been like, wow, is that me that he's talking?
Absolutely. Yes,
That me that
absolutely.
he's talking about? My husband often says I have a halo around my head. And I'm saying, and he's always saying that he's close to me because I have this halo. Well, I don't know where he got that from, but anyways, I am so honored to be among the best here. Omar, my cousin, who is very dear to my heart, always has been, and his daughter, Omari, who's always been very dear to my heart, and his lovely wife, Debbie. They are such a beautiful family. And to meet Dr. Thomas, who is sporty with his barbershop. I like it, the barbershop chat.
That's right.
My sister Lily, as always, she is a true champion. She's one of my favorite people in the world. And I look up to her so much, and I'm so happy that she has taken on this vision, because it is a vision that she's had and has come to fruition. And I think it came to fruition through COVID-19, which, you know, none of this would be happening if COVID-19 hadn't happened. And we were there. Yes, we were there. We were going to meetings. We were having healing sessions and so forth. But it wasn't until COVID-19 brought all of this to light, the light about the study. People were saying, I'm not going to get the vaccine because of that Tuskegee experiment. And as my sister explained, that is not the proper term, the proper title for the study. The fact that the Tuskegee experiment was with the Tuskegee Airmen that were in Tuskegee.
Good point.
So, you know, and people didn't know about the study. So it was up to us to educate. And Lily started getting all of these calls about the study. What did we think about it? How we were treated? Why weren't people getting vaccine hesitancy and so forth? And so we had to start speaking out that this was false information that they were getting, misinformation that they were getting, because no one was injected with syphilis in that study.
That's right.
And so anyways, after that, I was kind of, my sister has she's a great influencer.
No, that's a good way to put it. Let me tell you what I have to say this. Lily does not, you don't volunteer. Lily voluntold you.
I like that.
So you be voluntold what to do.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Okay. You don't
Well,
volunteer.
I was being real nice and great influencer.
I know, and I had to put it with you know how with this is a family conversation.
In the barbershop, in the salon.
You were not gonna tell you're not gonna tell my
Absolutely.
cousin no. No, you're not. That's not gonna happen.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I tell you, it started with one time I went to a session and Lily said, well, we don't have a secretary to take the minutes. So Joyce, can you do the minutes? So I was drafted right then and there to do the minutes. So from that point on, I was doing the minutes. And I tell you, they talk a lot about everything. So I'm writing minutes and trying to figure out oh man. And then when COVID came upon us, we had these Zoom meetings and healing meetings, which I want to talk a little bit about the healing meetings because they were so important in people's lives of the descendants. We needed that. We needed the healing sessions. And Dr. Reuben Warren, the head of the Bioethics Center in Tuskegee, he actually facilitated and started that with Dr. Ann and Edward Wimberly. And we had these meetings where we would go for an annual day of healing, the first day. And we would talk about how we felt. And they were just great moderators and people that could bring out things that you probably didn't want to bring out. And there were a lot of people still after 40 years of finding out about the study, they were still angry and they were still, yes, upset and had a lot of shame. And shame. And these healing sessions brought all of that, a lot of that out, where people could come to a place where there were other descendants to actually talk to each other and how they felt and how their family member was affected by this. So it was very important that these healing sessions took place, and we still do them. And even over the COVID, we did the healing sessions. And it was tremendous because it was one that we had, that it was an all-women panel, and it brought together Henrietta Lacks Foundation, someone from the descendant, Miss White, and her mother. It brought together from the Oklahoma massacre. There was I can't think
Wall
of
Street. But
yes, yes.
Yeah.
She was there on the and I hate that because I can't remember her name. I have to Google it real quick. But she was there. There was someone from Voices for Our Fathers who was Bishop Deidre Parker Jackson. And there was also someone from Alabama, the Africa Town.
Wow.
And it was just a stupendous moment where all of these were women who talked about their healing. And I think most of the time when we go to our healing sessions, they're mostly women anyways there, not so much men. And I know that we needed to hear these stories. And Carmen and I put it together and got these women on. And it was such a powerful healing session. And then after that, we had one with the community. And Carmen had mentioned about the community. We need to get the community educated because even them, they don't know what the story is. And they're still out there saying things that are not correct. So we need to have that. So as you saw in the my bio, I'm also the chairperson for the strategic plan, which we have that in our strategic plan as for community involvement to get out and talk to the community. And that's something that we're doing and embellishing on. And Lily has been so wonderful as far as getting out and speaking and touching everybody's heart threads. I mean, she is so phenomenal when it comes to speaking. And she told me something. She says, you know, Joyce, I really don't like writing because it's just not my forte. You know, it's just not my forte. Well, she's done magazines. She's done prefaces for books. She's
Yeah, that's her modesty coming out.
I mean, you know, she's done all of these things, and right now helping to do the untold stories of the descendants. And this is a form of healing too, to let those descendants tell their stories about their loved ones, their fathers, their uncles, their great-grandfathers, their great-great-grandfathers. And we can go back a while with that. So, you know, it's very truly a wonderful thing that what we are doing. And Lily had mentioned about people internationally, touching people internationally. I am working with a student right now over in Oxford, England. She is well, we call it a senior. I'm not sure exactly what they call it, but it's her 4th year of college at the Oxford University. And she was just so fascinating. Lily and I Zoom with her. She is just so fascinating because she heard about the study when she was 12 years old. And she has kept that in mind all of these years. And that is what she wanted to do her thesis on. So she reached out in an email after she had went to voicesforfathers.org and saw Lily's name. And of course, Lily kind of influentially brought me into that.
You were
because
voluntold again.
we were stationed in England. My husband was stationed in England. We were over there for 4 years. So I know a little bit about the country and so forth. And it was just an immediate connection with that young lady because I love young people. I just love young people. I mean, I just get excited when I talk about young people.
Well, just when you're talking about it, it's like
You know, Miss Joyce, we have some young people out there listening. We heard Carmen and how the legacy of the study has shaped her career arc. I want to ask you a question. About how does a flight nurse for the National Guard find their way into what you're doing now?
You know, it's by the grace of God that He has directed me, and truly the Holy Spirit, because my father was a gem. My father was a gem. He was kind, he was gentle, he had gentle brown eyes, and he never raised his voice. I mean,
Okay.
he was just a wise man. He was a wise man. I think I got one whipping from my father, one. And that was when I was like very young with a fly swatter of all things. I was dancing around underneath the table, you know, but I don't remember him ever being such a, it was my mother who was the disciplinarian. You know, you have to go get the switch, remember?
right.
You have to go get a switch, and if it broke, you had to go get another one.
No,
So-
she go get the tree.
You had to go get another switch. But my dad, he was great. He was a great influence in my life as far as to do the right thing, always, no matter what consequences came about, you always do the right thing. You make the right decision. He was a supporter of people, of organizations, of other men. In fact, when I was at a reunion, now 50-year reunion, I learned this about my father, that he was the leader of a workman's, I guess it's a team leader for the Black men at Arbor Homes, where they make doors. It was called Arbor Homes. And he was the leader, he was the team leader. And this girl, one of my classmates, came up and told me this. She says, I remember my father talking about your father. And I had never known that about my father. I don't think my other siblings knew any, and there are 8 of us, okay? My mother had 9 children, but there are 8 of us living. And so, you know, it was like, wow, I didn't know that about my dad. So I was eager to tell my other siblings about it, you know, but he was just a wonderful man, and he would always have time for his grandkids, you know, with picking peppermints out of his bib overalls, because that was his his attire, and cutting up sugar cane for us. And I know Omar remember that.
Absolutely, remember that well.
Cut up little cubes of sugar cane for us so that we could eat it, you know, and just so integral, taking us fishing early in the morning, and we would come back with these little brims, but my mother would fry them up and we would eat them, you know. But just so many good things, you know, about it. And
yeah.
But anyways, getting back to your point, yeah, he was a great influence on my life. And I will always remember the time when he came to California. And this was right after the study had happened, because I was in Japan, and I came back to Japan, to Sacramento, and he had gotten a stipend from the government, from the lawsuit.
Okay.
And for Fred Gray, who had done the lawsuit for Mr. Powell and some other men. And he came out to visit.
Freddie, Mr. Pollard, that's what's Mr.
Yeah,
Pollard.
Mr.
Yeah.
Pollard. I know that was sounded wrong.
Yeah, we just want to
This-
make sure it's good.
Mr. Pollard. and some of the other men. And he came out and visited me in California with my mom. And that was the first airplane ride that he had ever taken.
Wow.
Right.
So it's, just a lot of good things about him. And I am excited to be Lily's sidekick. We bounce off of each other all the time. Sometimes we're on the phone 3 and 4 times a day.
Let me say this, a couple of things. One is we got to do a couple of things. One is I want you all to meet our team as well. I want to do this team behind the scene. I want you to tee up the video. I want to introduce Dr. Sharon Cooper. I want to introduce Dr. Carol Ritter. I want to bring Mike Brown in, Dorothy Reynolds, Sandra Jenkins, and Andre Russell. I'm gonna backload everything else, and we're gonna finish up with the video and then a conversation with my cousins. What's your thoughts? Let's start with Dr. Cooper, Dr. Sharon Cooper. What's your thoughts, Dr. Cooper? You're hearing my cousins and I talk about what happened, and obviously you being in the public health space, you know about the study as well. What's your thoughts about this kind of conversation?
Oh, it's needed. Words of wisdom. Thank you for sharing this tremendous history. This is often what we had heard from Carmen, lost. This is important, not only because we don't want to repeat the atrocities of the past, but we look at the implications and how we can grow from this. And I love the fact there's the spirit of love and a commitment to unity and seeking paths to improve access, quality, and informing people. And as Dr. T has said so graciously, because of this, it has evolved, informed consent has evolved out of this. Institutional review studies so that we don't repeat those atrocities, so that we can educate folks on an ongoing basis and they can be accountable. So again, this is needed, and I don't want to take too much time. I'm just glued to this, and I'm up for adoption.
Well, know that you are adopted. You are part of the family now, Dr. Cooper.
But thank you so much for your words of wisdom and sharing this history that is needed and conversations that need to take place. And so once again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you.
So while Sharon Dr. Cooper's still here, just this week, I had to submit a revision to an IRB application around human subjects. And in the course of the conversation with the administrator, Dr. Sharon Cooper's name comes up as someone who was an advocate to ensure that the community voices are heard around that table. And I think we need more of that. And I just wanted you to know, I got an echo from you sitting at another table today, directly related to why we're here. And those positive silver linings, there are some silver linings, need to be lifted up because as Carmen said, someone said, I'm tired of hearing it. Oh no. If the pandemic's taught us anything, we haven't heard it enough.
Absolutely.
That's exactly right.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you so much. Let me go to Dr. Carol Ritter. She is our resident gynecologist, OBGYN, and all of the other things. Dr. Ritter, this is my family coming into this space, and we've talked about the public health, United States Public Health Service study before that was conducted in Tuskegee. So what's your thoughts? You're a physician, and the Hippocratic Oath obviously was violated. So what's your thoughts about this, hearing it from people who were directly engaged?
First of all, I'm like really honored to be here to hear this. I mean, it's like rich, really rich information. I recognize that it's the women who are behind this, are behind these men who are bringing it forward. So God bless you all. Second of all, I recognize now, just from listening to you, that there is data there that has been gone underground. 72, it was stopped. What happened to that plasma and that serum that has been collected?
Mhm.
I personally have a father who was a survivor of the 1918 pandemic. And when he was on his deathbed, I took his blood because there was a study at Duke who was trying to study the plasma of Spanish flu survivors. Right. So there's rich information in this information from this United States study that hasn't been brought forward. It's the same thing with studies from LSD. They studied it and then they banned it, right? And so all this data it's there, and there's information there that can save lives. And it can honor these men who were abused. So we need to honor them by bringing this information forward and bettering ourselves because of it. So I never thought of that before, but that information still needs to be uncovered. So thank you for like bringing that to my attention and bringing that forward, because there can be some good that comes from this, more than just the Belmont study and IRBs. I mean, it's incredible what you guys are doing. So thank you.
Thank you. Let me go in the barbershop. Mike Dynamite Brown. Mike, we often talk about when brothers come into, particularly when in the embryonic stages of the COVID pandemic, there were a lot of brothers that were invoking the study conducted in Tuskegee as the reason why they would not get vaccinated. And so you've had this conversation a lot with brothers. And so now that you're hearing from my cousins and obviously myself, tell me what's your thoughts and how can we expand the conversation where it's legitimacy. You notice what we talk about not being, talk about trust. Let's talk about trustworthiness. And I think that's an important way to take this. What's your take? What's your take on that?
Absolutely. You have to be steadfast in the material that you're advocating to the people that come into your barbershop. They're filled with so many conspiracy theories and things that really just don't make sense. And so we just have to, continue to keep it where the cows can get it. And so they can understand. And really the hardest part is like trying to unlearn their thinking and relearn it. And it takes the patience of Job to try to get it through. We just got to keep fighting. It's something that you can't get tired in doing good. What I do definitely want to say is that from meeting your family here and just knowing you in the time that I have, the Lord has his hand in your family. It comes through everyone, and you're speaking. I feel the spirit that comes through them. It's full of education and it's all led by the Lord. So it's a pleasure meeting you guys. You guys are my family now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we embrace you and we love you. Let me go down to Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and bring up Dorothy Reynolds. Hey, Dorothy Reynolds, how are you doing? Now, Dorothy Reynolds is one of the people who she doesn't talk a lot, but she does a lot. She's one of those watch what I do, not what I say kind of people. More is caught than is taught. People learn best by precept and example. And she's an example for advocacy for health, equity, and to make sure that people are healthy in our community. Hey, Dorothy Reynolds, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine tonight. How are you,
Wonderful.
Mr. Omar? Good, good. Thank you so much for introducing me in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. I feel alone down here until you all come around me. I've enjoyed so much listening to this information. I'm learning really, because I heard my father and my uncles when I was a child. I'm from Louisiana originally, and I would hear them talking about the Tuskegee study and how
The
you
United States Public Health Service study conducted in Tuskegee. You see what I'm saying?
correction.
You
And
I had to do it because my cousins were just chopping at the bits to do it, so I did it in advance. Go ahead.
well, I really think the panelists, all of you were enlightening, and I learned a lot from your conversation, and it's something that I really hold dear to my heart. And Dr. T, in the barbershop, I remember when I was a little child, well, a young lady, I wanted to always be a barber. And my father said, no, that's not a place for a lady to be hanging around or working. He said anything could be said in a barbershop.
He's
So
right.
you don't,
And he wasn't wrong for that, Miss Reynolds.
so he said, I don't want you there. So when we got ready, he was still alive when we got ready to open the barber shop. And I put a chair in there particularly for him, but he became ill and wasn't able to participate. But he had planned on being there if I had to be there. He wanted to be there to make sure he monitored what I hear. But I'm not over there all the time, but I can imagine that some of this conversation is going on in there when I'm not there, because I have heard some of the things that they talked about. And when we did our shots in the shop vaccination clinic, some of the men did state that, is this stuff gonna give me DD, meaning the vaccination?
Mm-hmm.
Am I gonna get sick? And one of the young men asked if he became ill with DD, who would he sue? Could he sue us, or could he sue the health department?
Wow.
Wow.
So I had to let him know that this wasn't something that he had to worry about. But saying that to say that people do still have concerns about whether the vaccinations are safe or whether they're not, or if they're being guinea pigs, is the term they use.
Wow.
And so by sharing information about it, is, as I said, it's really enlightening, and I am so glad that I was able to be available tonight to hear this presentation from you all.
Thank you so much, Miss Dorothy Reynolds, Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Let's go to Philly. We're Philadelphia kind of area of Pennsylvania. Let's go to Pennsylvania. I know she's in Pennsylvania.
Yes,
but we talk about her area, and I'm gonna get that down, Sandra Jenkins. I'm gonna get to know exactly where you are, because we need to give your area its props. So tell us exactly where you are, and then your take on, your Sandra Jenkins has been an integral part of what we do here at the Cutting Edge for as long as we've had the Cutting Edge, and so we're so appreciative of her participation in the conversations that we have here. Your take.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Sandra Jenkins. To you wonderful, beautiful ladies, Joyce and Lily. I love you already. I am from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania originally. However, my business is in Montgomery County. It's the suburban area of Philadelphia. We still, make Philly our home. And those are the people that I serve. Those people that live in Philadelphia, they will travel out to my salon, which is probably closer than the average salon that they have friends that frequent. But most of Philadelphia are my clientele. So they're very much like you ladies are here. And it's such a warm and welcoming spirit to hear you talk about some of these major issues. And during this time of Lenten season, it's such a wonderful way to encourage, to make that word disproportionate, proportional. That really bothers me, that word disproportionate. As I walk into my salon, and I'm tagged, I'm like, hey, Sandra, hey, by the way, let me get that survey of the flu survey that you have. Oh, how cool is that? You know what I mean? We're right now conducting a flu survey, and to get my clients encouraged to really understand that we care in our salon about your health. It's very, very important. And to have these authentic conversations about health and equity in your salon is an important, meaningful way to create an environment of understanding and inclusion. So I thank you all. Thank you so very much.
I just want to say to Miss Lily and Miss Joyce, you're meeting with the wellness warriors, the salon and the barbers and stylists who stepped up to the challenge of COVID. We said this before, things that would not have happened were it not for COVID. There's a silver lining here.
Wonderful.
A window for fundamental change won't stay open forever, but we can really take advantage right now, as you're hearing, ways in which we continue the story and the voices moving forward.
What I'm going to do, one is I want to bring up, I want to go down to the ATL and go into the largest, busiest airport in the entire world, the Atlanta airport, and bring up my friend Andre Russell. Hey, Andre, he has a barbershop in the Lily and Joyce. His barbershop is in the airport at Atlanta. And I just want you to know that brother's balling and shot calling, right? All right. Hey, Andre, unmute, and how you doing, man? Unmute. Take your time. We got you.
Wait. I'm sorry. Usually I'm not muted. But you have me trained so far where you talk so much better than I do about the shop. I said, well, let me hold on for a second. But I did want to say this about what we're talking about tonight. Even though I grew up through this era, had it not been for COVID, this conversation would not be taking place. But because people have gone so far past what we're talking about tonight. There's people just like, oh, well, we have these things going on now. We got the flu. We have this, we have that, but we forget about what's going on in Tuskegee. And it was just so much time had passed and now we're talking about, well, what were the results? Well, where are the results? You know what I'm saying? Because even now, we don't know anything about it. So perhaps it'll be a good thing to bring it back up inside our shops and have things going on about the STDs. We're talking about them, but we forgot that the original basic STD that everybody was concerned with is gone within normal conversation. And I'm trying to think of the name of it now, and I keep forgetting.
You're not talking about AIDS, are you?
No, no. Well, AIDS is something where we look at AIDS nowadays, and now you get a commercial that says, well, I take this, and we don't know that I have AIDS. What the hell does that mean?
That's scientific progress.
Yeah. And so, I don't know where these things are going. And, I try and be involved in as many positive things as I can be as this goes along. But I'm glad these young ladies, see, I can call them young ladies, because
absolutely. You can. Yeah.
These young ladies are not talking about it. And Neil, it's just I'm glad you have this family like this. Now I know how you get these conversations going on and on.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every time you slow down, Lily will kick you, or Joyce will kick you.
So
Yeah.
Andre, let me ask Andre this.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
About these sensitive conversations, and I think you were alluding to the fact that the scourge at the time, syphilis, is
Right.
not a STD that's talked about much. But just in general, do you believe that in the shop, in the sacred space of the barbershop, that those kinds of sensitive conversations could come up and could be addressed with the kind of education that we're doing here tonight?
They could be, but if like Mike would be a perfect example of the STD, especially something as strong as syphilis, had occurred maybe 3 years ago. It's not something that could be discussed. 4 years ago, perhaps, but 2 years ago, not at all. If you understand what I'm saying, it's gotten to the point where you can't even talk about something like, oh, I got crabs when I was out on a date the other night. Those type of things aren't discussed, and it's gotten to the point where the ones that are discussed are funny, like the one I just said. AIDS, because they have commercials now that says not AIDS is not a bad thing. Really?
Right.
So yeah, so I'm glad that they came up with this tonight. I'm glad you guys are talking about it. You sent me an email about it. I said, syphilis. Wait a minute, I hadn't even heard of syphilis in about a year. So I'm glad it's out here now. And what we're talking about now, hopefully it'll go a little bit further. It'll become something that we can talk about again, because we can't have things that are not discussed in the barbershop, because that's the only place it can get a little bit further. We can talk about just about anything and take it one step further. Okay, Mr. Neal, go ahead.
Well, no. You notice that I have been really patient, and this is so you see I'm learning and I'm on my best behavior. My older cousins are here. My mother and my sister surrogates, right? So
you're showing off. Okay.
My best behavior. I'm not doing anything wrong at all. Let me go. Thanks, Andre. Love you, man.
Thank you.
Let me go to the Maryland area. Trey Shay's hair studio. Katrina Randolph. Hey, Katrina, how you doing? Let's snap her up.
Come on, snap.
How are you doing?
I am great. How are you?
Fabulous, wonderful, supersonic.
It's just such an honor every time I get on this call and hear about this study from Tuskegee. And it's an honor to be amongst your entire family to hear this Black history story. Every time I hear you speak, your family members speak, I gain something new. And I was just sitting here thinking, saying that's what makes us unique as barbers and stylists, to be on a platform like this where we're educated and informed, to be able to go back into our salon spaces and share this correct information behind our chair to continue to promote health equity. So I am always honored to be on this platform and to hear from your cousins, Lily and Ms. Joyce, your cousin that already left. Are these your aunts? I mean, your aunts.
No, these are my cousins. No, let me say,
Carmen
Carmen is Lily's daughter.
Okay.
And so Lily is my first cousin and Joyce is my first cousin. I mean, it's not like distant. This is like next to sisters, but they're really sisters. I mean, we grew up really close.
I can tell when they relay this health information to us about this experiment, and I'm excited just to be here to hear from the family who had the experience to be able to come back and convey this information to us, so we can go back and stand behind our chair and talk about this study and tell them what it really is and what it really was. Thank you guys so much. I'm beyond honored.
Absolutely. Let me do a couple of things. Dr. T, thank you so much, Katrina. Dr. T, we got 8 minutes, and this is what we're gonna do. This is what we do. Let's tee up how people feel, right? And then while we're running the film, we'll have the people curate behind the scenes.
Okay.
And then the last thing we'll see is the word cloud. Tee it up,
Okay.
Dr. T.
All right. So Miss Lily and Miss Joyce, this is what we do. Think of a word right now that best reflects how you're feeling in this moment in the pandemic. And let's drop that word into the chat. And for those out there in social media land, you can use the Q&A box and then put as many words as you can. Don't worry about spelling, just put them in there and we'll build a cloud. And you'll notice that the larger the word, the more people who thought about that word. And so you might be influenced by what you see in there, but just keep those words coming as the mayor transitions. I just want to say this, Mayor, what a conversation tonight. And the power of our trusted information centers, our barbershops and salons, to amplify the message. And what you're about to see is just going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Why don't you tee up what the video is?
Yeah, let's do this. This was an ad council video that they said one of the largest ad council videos that they've ever produced and disseminated. The video has an opportunity to contextualize what took place with the United States Public Health Service study of untreated syphilis in the Negro male. This video will give you a good understanding of what actually took place. So we're going to roll the video and then we're going to build a cloud. Roll the video.
And just keep those words coming. No sound.
Need to optimize sound.
There we go.
I've had someone tell me that they were concerned about getting the COVID vaccine because of the syphilis study. They didn't even know my grandfather was a part of the study.
Tuskegee is a very sacred place. There is no way you cannot feel history.
Think about the Tuskegee Airmen and all of the greatness that they did, and then to find out that in this same space, such an atrocious study was being heaped upon our men.
The study began in 1932. Segregation and Jim Crow were the structures of how our society functioned. What happened with the men and their families? It was the untreating of syphilis.
The original title of the study is Tuskegee Study of Untreated Syphilis in the Negro Male.
They were not treated for a disease that killed them, that made them blind.
My great-great-grandfather, John Good, he was of the clergy, he was a farmer. He was a syphilitic in the study, and our family really didn't talk about it.
Both of my great-grandfathers had been a part of that study. They were sharecroppers, and then later they were able to get land of their own.
On my right here is Alec Ware, we call him Big Daddy. On my left here is Papa Frank Cooper, and he went blind at a young age.
I am the daughter of one of the men in the study, Freddie Lee Tyson. I'm also the daughter of Johnny Mae Neal Tyson. I have to include my wonderful mother because the two of them was on the journey together.
My uncle used to always run after us. We'll get your ear, I'm gonna get, and we just run and run and run, and then we'll run right back to him.
My grandfather and I were phenomenally close. He worked as a firefighter where the Tuskegee Airmen trained. Actually caught my first fish with my grandfather.
My father had congenital syphilis from his mother.
There were a number of opportunities for the men to receive treatment, and they were very intentionally barred.
And everyone involved in that study wanted it to go untreated until their death. Their body would then be sent to be autopsied to see the effect.
Around 1947, penicillin became widely accepted and widely used. The doctors of the study prevented the men in the study from getting penicillin.
The first thing those doctors should have done for these gentlemen was to make sure that each and every one was treated.
It was the fall of '72. My brother Wallace read an article about the study. A couple of days later, my father received a phone call indicating that he was in the study.
When he found out what the study was really all about and that he had been used and treated as a guinea pig, there was just a lot of shame. I'm so sorry.
In comparing what's happening today with COVID, with what happened back in 32, I see more of a contrast than a similarity.
A lot of misinformation is out there that is causing people to think twice or to hesitate. And one of them is the fact they think the men were injected with syphilis, and they were not.
And they were not injected with the spirochete that causes syphilis.
They were not being treated. That is very different from what's happening with COVID-19. The vaccine is being made available to anyone who wants it.
Too many people are using the study as a way of causing their own selves to deny access to vaccines that would save their lives.
And when we talk about COVID-19, for example, we're not talking about the non-treating of Blacks. We're talking about the treating of all people.
The ways in which COVID-19 ravaged Black communities showed that we have underlying vulnerabilities when something like a pandemic hits.
That to me really connects what's happening now with a very important historical legacy. As a result of what happened to these men, it changed the course of American clinical research. It created the institutional review boards, which is a very important intervention that says that there must be people who can examine every study that is done on human beings in this country.
Wherever there's research that's happening, there has to be informed consent documents that are signed, not just when participating in clinical trials, but also if you're going to get any type of a medical procedure. Those things came because of that study.
It boils down to truly understanding the concept of community, which is two words, common unity.
The path from tragedy to triumph travels along the path of learning.
I've taken both of my vaccines, and you're talking about something that happened to my family.
We can't do this by ourselves. In order for us to be healthy together, we need to all be vaccinated. Wow.
Hey,
Wow.
let's snap that. Mayor, before you say anything, what an honor to have the family here and to show that piece. You can go ahead and bring the stop share screen. And and to be able to have that shared through the barbershops and salons all across the country. It's empowering. And that's why what you're doing is so important, to recognize that the sacrifice lives on in what we do to make things better. And the pandemic's given us the opportunity to do that. Omar, thank you so much for bringing your family into the cutting edge.
Absolutely, man. This has been a family reunion. Let's see how we feel collectively as we get ready to leave. We're gonna go just a second over or so, but
they were working fast on this cloud.
Oh yeah, they had to.
All right. Here we go. Wow.
Blessed, informed, blessed. Look at that. Thankful, inspired, and just honored. Community. And talked about that common unity. Powerful message. Promising, compassionate, dissemination, meaning to get it out. Empowerment, healing, historical. Participation, proportional, unifying, caring. I'm looking at forgiveness, honor, and like what this is beautiful.
Think about it, Mayor. This was
understanding all of this. Yeah,
this was a tough conversation,
right? And look what came out of it.
And look at the words here.
Look at the words.
We need not be fearful of engaging the tough conversations, not sanitizing the conversation. Oh, I won't use the word Negro because it might offend. No, that's what they called it. Don't sanitize it. Don't be afraid of it, because we got to walk through this kind of truth to get to trust.
Right. I
Thank you
like
so
that, Dr.
much.
T. That's a t-shirt. Walk through truth to get to trust. Boy, I'm telling you. Thank you all so much. Take that down. Let me say this. You know, I'm trying to be better about time, but let me thank each of you, the barbers and the stylists, our wellness warriors, for all you do, both seen and unseen. You all are truly the bedrock of health for our community. So thank you so very much for what you do. Absolutely. To our team, Dr. Ritter and Dr. Cooper and the team behind the scene. Thank you all so much for bringing your A game every.
Yes.
You all are just incredible. Dr. T, I'm gonna say you because I'm gonna leave the last words that I say for my family. You are family, and you know, although we are, you know, brothers from another mother, we are connected by a cause.
That's right.
That's greater than you or I, and that's important. When you are in that space where there's a calling. That you're not just doing this, you've been called out to be called on for such a time as this. And so thank you for the opportunity to do this work. And lastly,
honor and a pleasure, Omar. Honor and a pleasure.
And lastly, to my cousins, and to Carmen in her absence now, words are inadequate to describe how much I love, appreciate, and respect you. You have been an example for me. My best self is exemplified through what I saw growing up. More is caught than is taught. People learn best by precept and example. And each of you have been an example for me to see love up close. And as always, I'd like to leave you with these 2 words. Remember that I love you with a perfect love. But more importantly, remember this. You got the power. Until the next cutting edge, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.